Fizu fizu.
Eko Jumoni. Welcome to Yoruba Simplified. I am your host, Abiodun. This is Yorubaland and it spans across the countries of Benin Republic, Togo, and Nigeria. Yorubaland has a rich and diverse climate, from the Guinea savanna up north to the rainforest tropics in the east and the west to its coastal lands down south. And Yorubaland, of course, is inhabited by the Yoruba people, a people of rich cultural heritage and one of the greatest history in the history of humanity. Of course, I can't talk about Yoruba without mentioning Oduduwa, the legendary divine king and progenitor of the Yoruba race as a whole, whose mark and influence spread across West Africa. During his reign as the king of Ife, the kingdom of Ife flourished politically and economically. Around 1000 to 1400 CE, Ife's industry was well known for inventing glass and producing iron, to the point where they had a monopoly of glass making in all of Black Africa. But of all the priceless works that Ife has made, none are as recognized today as their art. We have all seen African art from the western region, the eastern region, southern region, and even the northern region. And believe me when I say these are beautiful pieces of artworks. But as beautiful and mind-blowing as they may seem, Ife's artists were on a whole nother level. Considering the realism and every bit of detailing, these arts were so great that in 1910, a German European explorer by the name Leo Frobenius was so overwhelmed by its realism and technical aesthetics that he immediately associated these arts as the greatest pieces of art he had ever known, to the point where he claimed these are arts from the lost city of Atlantis, an ancient mythical Greek colony. Man literally came down to West Africa and said, "Nah, these are my ancestors."
Guten Tag, mein ancestor. It is a great pleasure to finally see you.
You are claiming my ancestor, Abi? Ole! So, Oduduwa's descendants decided to leave Ife and establish sovereignties of their own. Among these established sovereignties are what the Edos now call the Ogiso dynasty, which later became the Oba dynasty of the Great Benin Kingdom. These Ife princes also established the Alafi dynasty of the well-known Great Oyo Empire. The Oyo Empire was so powerful that it put majority of the Yoruba cities and kingdoms under its command. But Oyo didn't stop there. Oyo wanted more. And so Oyo conquered the Bariba and the Borgu kingdoms. And by the end of the 18th century, Oyo completely conquered the Dahomey Empire. But this was not before Oyo fought and conquered the Nupe people, which was kind of like payback if you ask me. You see, before Oyo became a powerful empire, Oyo was more or less your average medieval African kingdom. And then Oyo was conquered by the Nupe Empire for several decades. So after Oyo got its footing, it defeated the Nupe people and finally conquered them for over 200 years. And then they became best friends. But Oyo wasn't just a powerful military empire. Oyo was also known to have class and was very wealthy. It was basically the Rome of tropical Western Africa, with kings and sultans from several West African empires sending their children to Oyo, where they were taught philosophy, astrology, and learning how to have unlimited steeds. Back then, if you go to the Mali Empire dressed like someone who's from Oyo, you would be treated like a king, and they would probably play you some fine string of music. Speaking of music, the Yoruba people have created several music genres since the dawn of time. Some of these genres are the Juju, Fuji, Akpala, Sakara, and the most popular one of them till date, Afrobeat. Yes, that is correct. Afrobeat was created by the Nigerian music legend Fela Anikulapo Kuti, who is 110% Yoruba. Today, Afrobeat is the most popular and most respected African music genre. You hear Afro music everywhere you go. Nigeria, Ghana, Europe and the United Kingdom, North America, South America, and even Asia and the Middle East. I literally listen to Afrobeat in my dreams. But the Yorubas didn't just excel in music only. They are the literal face of the African entertainment industry. And they also created Nollywood, a thriving movie industry that is only next to the Indians' Bollywood and the American Hollywood. It's safe to say that the Yorubas contributed a great amount to Africa's entertainment industry. Speaking of industrial and economic advancement, Yorubaland has become one of the economic giants of Africa, with the city of Eko popularly known as Lagos, thriving continuously as the economic powerhouse and the commercial hub of West Africa, annually attracting multi-billion-dollar investments from investors all around the world. And this is not exclusive to Lagos. The states of Ogun and Oyo also get a fair share of investors from around the world. Not to mention the hundreds of thousands of people from Latin America and North America flooding into the state of Osun, the heartland of Yorubaland, for their annual pilgrimage of the Osun Festival, which is a part of the Yoruba Ifa religion, also known as Isheshe. Now you may be wondering, what are people from Brazil, Trinidad, and Cuba doing in Yorubaland? Well, it's because a large population of them are descendants of Yoruba slaves who kept their culture and could trace their roots back to Yorubaland. And trust me when I say, these people don't joke with their Yorubaness. They respect the Yoruba culture to the max, practice the Yoruba traditional religion of Ifa, created entire religions based off of the Yoruba traditional spirituality, like the Candomblé of Brazil and the Santeria of Trinidad. They even have the Yoruba Isheshe weddings in their constitution. In fact, there's a common saying amongst the Yorubas in Nigeria that the Yoruba in Brazil, Trinidad, and Cuba are more Yoruba than the Yoruba in Nigeria. Did I forget to mention that the Yoruba people have several varieties of delicious food? Some of these Yoruba delicacy includes the akara, which is also very popular amongst the descendants of Yorubas in Latin America. The Yorubas also have the moi moi, asaro, egusi, asun, efori-ro, ila alasepo, amala, ewa goyin, ewedu, boli, and their own variant of the jollof rice, popularly known as the Nigerian jollof rice. But there is one thing the Yoruba foods have in common, and that is
Pepe.
Honestly, in the history of the entire world, I don't think I've seen a civilization so obsessed with pepper as the Yoruba people are. I mean, Yoruba people add a truckload of pepper in every dish they make. There is a 0.1% chance of you finding a Yoruba dish that doesn't have pepper added into it. The Yoruba people even invented soups that are made entirely out of, you guessed it, pepper, omi obe,
Pepe.
ata obe.
Pepe.
There are viral memes all over Western African social media that shows just how obsessed the Yorubas are with pepper. There's even a popular Yoruba adage that says, a soul that does not eat pepper is a lifeless soul. Another thing the Yorubas are obsessed with is their metaphorical figure of speech. A typical Yoruba person cannot go a day without making use of a popular Yoruba adage, known to the Yoruba people as Owe Yoruba, which simply means Yoruba Proverbs. Ọmọdé tí kò bá gbàgbé ọ̀rọ̀ àná kò ní rẹ́ni bá ṣeré, which simply means that the child that does not forget about yesterday's quarrel will not find anyone to play with today. The lesson here is that we should learn to forgive for the good of tomorrow. Àìlè sọ̀rọ̀ ní ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ orí burúkú. Keeping silent is the beginning of misfortune, which means that you should not be afraid to speak out your mind on matters that affect you. Àgùntàn tó bá bá ajá rìn, á jẹ̀gbẹ́. The sheep that walks with the dogs would eventually eat feces, which means that you should watch the kind of friends you keep so they may not have negative impacts on you. Well, thank you, Yoruba ancestors. I shall now surround myself with friends that would only impact me positively, like my philosophy of life and my fashion sense. Did I mention that the Yoruba people do not play with their fashion? The Yoruba people take immense pride in their traditional attire. Starting with the ladies, they have the Iro ati Buba, which consists of a loose-fitting blouse that covers the upper body and a large wrapper that is wrapped around the waist, which covers the lower body. The ladies also have the gele, an elaborate Yoruba cultural head tie that is wrapped around the head in various styles. They have the komole, iborun, oleku, and several beads and accessories. The men have the agbada, which is a multi-layered robe that is worn occasionally and sometimes for casual outing. They have the shokoto, kembe, kaja, gbariye, danshiki, and the well-known fila, a famous headwear for the men with different patterns and styles. like the abeti aja, which means like the dog's ear. The best Yoruba traditional attire, however, is the aso ebi. This is a uniform dress code or dressing style that is traditionally worn by the Yoruba people. It is an indicator of cooperation and solidarity during ceremonies, events, and festive periods. And trust me, bro, you can't find this anywhere else in the entire world. Did I forget to mention that the Yoruba people are one of the most religious tolerant people in the entire world? The Yoruba is a civilization where Islam, Christianity, and the Yoruba traditional Ifa spirituality meet together as a family. A typical Yoruba family consists of a Christian father and a Muslim mother, or a Muslim father and a Christian mother, and an uncle who's a babalawo. Other ethnicities and civilizations can be united with religion, but the Yorubas are not one of those civilizations. The only defining means of unity amongst these people is their Yorubaness, and maybe their Owambe culture, which is a term for their extravagant parties that has now influenced other Nigerian cultures. There's a lot you're missing in life if you haven't been to an Owambe party. Today, the Yoruba tradition is spreading globally and has influenced a lot of people and a lot of cultures. I think every Yoruba man or woman should be proud of themselves. If you enjoy this content and you want to see more of the Yoruba Simplified, make sure to like, share, and subscribe.